Hello again, everyone. I'm back from holiday, so I just thought I'd do another little vlog like this. Did one last week before we lost to Charlton, which was a sort of a bit of a positive spin on things. This one, I guess, isn't going to be quite the same, but I said at the end of that one, I'm not going to be delusional enough to say that, oh yeah, we're going to go beat Norwich and get back in the playoffs. I mean, there's no point going to the game tomorrow if you don't think that's going to happen. Or, of course, would it be more typical City to only beat Norwich in this final run, or would it even be more typical City to lose and still somehow qualify for the playoffs? Because we're, um, you know, joint on points with Wrexham in sixth. Of course, I did one last season that worked out fairly well. Talking about going into the Portsmouth game, and it's a little bit of a scenario like that where it could go down to goal difference, and that's the reason why we get in the playoffs. I think the goal difference thing only matters if either we, Derby don't win essentially, because Derby are probably going to go ahead against us, and Wrexham, I think they're going to beat Sheffield United. And of course, they're on 69 points, so to get this 72, it would only go down to goal difference between us and Wrexham if both of us win, or both of us draw, or both of us lose. If both of us win, I feel like that's unlikely. I don't necessarily see us winning. I don't necessarily see Wrexham winning. I do kind of feel like Derby, though they're in 8th, go into the final day with the easiest fixture at home to Sheffield United, and the other two teams aren't in the best form. Like Wrexham are not in the best form either. Yes, they beat Oxford and Stoke, but those are not good teams. Of course, we drew with Oxford, but and lost at home to Stoke. So there's lots of opportunities we've missed. The Charlton game was definitely our last chance to basically seal the playoffs, like we should have done weeks ago, and not go into the final day. Because if we'd won that, we'd be 3 points clear. Wrexham would have to beat Middlesbrough, who, because Southampton drew with Ipswich on Tuesday night, will go into that final game trying to get top two. So we would be in, almost unassailable position. You just try and play for 0-0 and you get through equally out. I'm not sure Wrexham are going to be beating Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough, I mean, I've been saying it the whole season that they're average, and they had that awful run with 11 games without a win. So it can happen. It can happen to Middlesbrough, and they found a way to win. So it's not impossible that a team that's not won in it so many is just going to continue on like that. But the Chelsea performance was deeply concerning because, I mean, yes, they had more of the ball. We had more shots, more touches in the opposition box. So I didn't see the game. I wasn't listening or watching it because I was on a boat at the time, so I didn't have any Wi-Fi signal. Well, I was on I had the Wi-Fi, but I wasn't able to watch or listen to the game or stream anything. So it was just relying on sort of the Twitter comments, that sort of thing. Statistically, it looked like we definitely could have got something from the game. First half, especially, we were quite poor though. Maybe we could be more goals behind. The defending for the two goals was terrible. Two great strikes, but should have dealt with them before they got to that scenario. But then when you go in at half time 1-1, you've got to play on the nerves of the Charlton team that are just trying to stay up, and know that Oxford are probably going to beat Sheffield Wednesday after the game because that was the early kickoff. And the first 15 minutes or so in the second half, I think it looked like we were a whole lot better. I had a lot more momentum and had the chances maybe to win the game. But it's just those fine margins we're not getting, on the right end of. In terms of have they bottled it? I mean, objectively, obviously, of course they have, because they had a great position and they've dropped off just at the worst part of the season. Of course, they still have the chance to get there, but how they've not beaten one of Leicester or Charlton or Birmingham away from home are awful. We had pretty much like the best run of 3 games other than playing Sheffield Wednesday 3 times in a row that you could kind of ask to have at that point of the season, but I guess all those teams had something to fight for. Well, Birmingham didn't, but Leicester and Charlton in particular did. And we did, we could have lost to Leicester. We could have beaten them in the last minute with that Egan chance. Either way, but You just go back to the Sheffield United game, and I feel like all of the decisions we had against us. I mean, I feel like the Ings goal was offside. That obviously isn't a subjective thing, but we got on the wrong end of three refereeing decisions there. The PGMO apologised, or didn't they? There was some, debate about whether they actually had or not, but there was some sort of call with the PGMO, the referees, and the club. So we were winning at that point. We were would have been 7 points clear. We'd be 3 points, clear of Wrexham and 4 of Derby going into this final day if we'd hung on to that. So you were hoping at that point, surely, we can still get another win and it's not going to come back to cost us. But it definitely looks like it's going to have done that. I understand what everyone is saying, that it's been an incredible season, because it has objectively been an incredible season, as in, not credible. No one saw this coming. How we can be 23rd and relegated on XG in the XG table, and be 7th and joint 6th going into the final game of the season. I wouldn't necessarily say we've only been lucky. We have been clearly we have been lucky in terms of the chances that some of these other teams have missed. I mean, you look at, like, I made that miss of the season compilation. So, Vipotnik against Swansea and Norwich, Sargent's miss. We've had 2 penalties in wins that we've had where Panda's saved it. So, could say that's just the skill of the goalkeeper there as opposed to luck. But I think the objective was to get top 10, and I feel like top 10 is fairly reasonable given how we've played. I would say we've not been so lucky that we should be in the bottom 3, but there's always a debate as to whether our form and how we have no control of the ball, and pretty much every last half an hour we're just hanging on for grim death if we're winning. And I don't really feel like we've equalised in a huge amount of games this season. We've dropped a lot of points instead. We start fairly well, and then we can't control the ball, so the second half the other team has a lot more of the ball and they get back into the game. Either it's like a 2-1 like Swansea where they scored, or Wrexham where they scored in the second half and we were able to hold on, or it's where we concede. So 2 goals against Leicester there, because he's against Charlton, Oxford, Birmingham, we've gone 1-0 up and we've not been able to hold on. So in terms of kind of the sustainability and the form and how we've played, I feel like just missing out on the playoffs kind of makes sense. I wouldn't necessarily say that because we have all these great forward players that and they've been clinical, which is a good thing and not something to be dismissed and they should be farther down the table. If we have good players, then top 10 is where we're going to be. I think Norwich on 65 points, aren't they? So the lowest we're going to finish is 8th. If it was next season, then we'd be in the playoffs, and we would have known we've been in the playoffs for 5 to 10 weeks now, sort of. Like ever since we beat Blackburn, we probably would have been like, well, we're 1,000 points clear of 9th, so we'll be fine. And it's only really Norwich's great run that's then kind of pushed them into 9th closer. But if it was next season, we would have been there. But we just got to focus on what it is this year. But yeah, I was going to say, I don't necessarily like the kind of, not defeatist attitude, but it's been a great season. It still has a chance to be an incredible season. We still have a chance to get promoted. Like, we are joint points with Wrexham. We still have an opportunity somehow mathematically to lose on the final day and finish in the playoffs. I think that's not going to happen. We could lose, but I don't think we'll get in the playoffs if we do, because Derby aren't going to lose at home to Sheffield United. Wrexham might lose, but both things aren't going to happen. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of permutations going into this final day. I don't necessarily see us beating Norwich, but it is important to say that Norwich, of course, early in the season when Philippe Clement went in there, his task was to keep them up, and he has done that. And then they had that just incredible run, and now that even when they were playing Swansea, there was still a remote chance last week when they drew 1-1 that they would actually still have a chance to finish 6th, especially given that they would be playing us, which makes it a little bit easier for them to control the permutations. But this is the first time in months and months that they haven't had even relegation or now kind of that late playoff push to play for. It's the last game of the season for them. They'll go, strong side. Obviously, I don't think they're going to play the academy, but you've just got to hope that even if we don't get there, even if we don't win, that they play a bit better than they have done against, especially second half against Leicester, and for pretty much the entirety of the first half, and maybe after we went a goal down to Charlton, because it's been a great season. You don't really want to be left at the end. Maybe they've missed out, but they've still given it a right good go. I feel like we have an opportunity to put a good performance in. It's just whether it's going to be enough. In terms of who I'd play, I understand the whole clamour to get Carl Joseph in. Carl Joseph's been in the team pretty much all our best results. He's our third top goal scorer, given the league this season and last year. Strikers aren't scoring 25, 30 goals like kind of some used to at the very top of the league. He's got 8. He's missed a few chances. Yes, it's an incredible bit of play to run back from the corner that we have and block the shot to prevent it from going 3-1, which could be crucial for goal difference. Carl Joseph is a striker that has missed a lot of chances this season, so that is obviously an amazing moment, yes, but don't necessarily just pencil Carl Joseph in as a reason why our goal difference it is good going into last game because, for example, when we were beating Blackburn 1-0, he missed an absolute sitter 1-on-1. I think, against Norwich and Blackburn, there's chances where he could have scored another one. It's not necessarily to criticise him, it's just to objectively show that discussing goal difference has always been something that confuses me, because you can play to try and get a win or play to try and be 0-0, but you can't play for goal difference. It's not necessarily in your power how many goals you concede, because you'd rather concede less anyway, because you're just trying to win. The most important thing is you're trying to win. Maybe if it's like the last few games like Man City and Arsenal, if you're a goal up against, or 2-0 up, maybe you'll keep Haaland on, that sort of thing. But I don't really know whether you can control goal difference. It just happens depending on how good you are, but it's not necessarily something you can kind of, this game, rather than trying to win, we're going to try and win lots. You just try and win the game. Derby's is obviously better than both us and Wrexham. Of course, people have been saying about is goal difference in goals scored and away goals scored in head-to-head games. Of course, we've beaten Derby 4-2. We lost 2-1, so we have a better head-to-head record against them. And then also better head-to-head record against Wrexham. So Wrexham scored one less goal than us, and have one better goal difference. So it is likely that it could go to head-to-head record potentially if we win 2-0 and they win 3-2. That's a thing. We need to win by 2 goals to match their goal difference, and then it would be joint goals scored and conceded, and then it would go to head-to-head record. So I feel like that's pretty much the only realistic score where that is important to look at. But the most important thing is that we try and win. I think you try and get Joseph in there somewhere, or at the very least just bring him on before Kumas or Hirakawa or Dowell, because he's been coming on for the last 5 minutes when we're chasing the game and we look more dangerous, and McBurney is able to, it's got more chances in the last 5 minutes of games because Joseph's there and just his presence, so even bring him on for the last half an hour as opposed to the last 10 minutes, he might actually have the chance to do something. Because Miller and Bellumi have been in good form recently. I don't necessarily know. You could bring him in. You could go 4-4-2 and drop Gelhardt, bring Gelhardt off the bench so it's hungry to score a goal. That could work because Gelhardt has scored goals recently, but he's not played very well. He's not really getting involved in the play. So you'd rather have Crooks up there to help McBurney and Melvin Bellamy or Joseph up there in a 4-4-2 perhaps. I think you would play Kyle just because I know people have, again, I just find it very dull and boring to use him as a scapegoat again and again, because how many times has he proved that he is good? And we've said it like maybe at the end of every single season that, oh, well, this is the year where he won't play next year, and then he's proved us wrong again. But genuinely, would you have Coyle or McNair there? I feel like you'd want to have McNair next to Egan. You just want McNair on the pitch to have the set piece delivery. Hughes could play. You'd want to play Hughes if he can, but if he can't, which seems likely that he can't start because of his injury issues, then I think maybe you want to start McNair, and just to have a balanced sort of back forward, you do play Coyle, and he is a club captain at the end of the day. I find it ridiculous, genuinely ridiculous. And if you don't agree, fine, but this is just my view, that him going out drinking after a game. Before, that would be a problem. But after a game, he can do whatever he wants. So if he wants to go out drinking, I don't necessarily think that anyone can really say that Louis Coyle does not care about this club. He's a club captain, and deservedly so after years of good service. So I just find that dumb. So, if I'm calling you dumb, sorry, but that's just what I think. And if you think that I'm ridiculous, that's what I think of you. So, it's just one of those things where we don't necessarily have to agree on that. But, I'd love him to score the winner on Saturday. That would be great. But I feel like maybe, at least for the first few minutes, where maybe, Wrexham haven't gone a goal up and we haven't gone a goal down, the first few minutes might be fun. So, it has been a good season. It is terrible the way that we've thrown it away, and I don't want to, beat around the bush on that. The fact that we've not got playoffs is, for me, gutting and devastating, and they've not been good enough in the, since the international break. If they don't get there, still have a chance to. That being said, the 38 games, was it the 39th or the 30? It would have been the 38th game where we won against Sheffield Wednesday. So if it was a Premier League season, that first 38 games, Jurkovic and Dean Holden and the club and the team have done incredibly well to put us into this situation, and they all deserve a lot of credit, and they don't deserve any credit, for the last 6 games. That's just how it is. Jurkovic, people saying he's doing a good job. He's done a good job, and then stopped doing so. That's not to say you should sack him. So Adjan, if you're watching this, which you won't be, don't sack him. He's, one of the managers of the season. Just like Rossini was, he got nominated for the EFL Awards and got sacked. But he knows what he wants. He says he knows what he wants for next year in terms of players. If he can actually have like a midfield, because Slater's basically been doing it by himself for the whole year, then maybe we can actually be more sustainable to finish top 8. And I feel like Adjan and Hull City and Sergei and the players will be thinking, yes, we can do enough to get top 8 next season, so then why would you sack him? So hopefully we don't need to worry about that, and that if the next one of these I'll do one at the end of the season, we're still in the playoffs, and that we've got promoted, which is still on the table. It's going to be very difficult. We'll see what happens. It's the same referee for this game as was the 4th official that didn't do anything to help the referee in the Hull Norwich game from 2 years ago, when Aaron Connolly was murdered by Angus Gunn, and Giannoulis, was it the Greek left back, elbowed whoever it was in the face and didn't get a yellow card or a red card, or was given as a foul. So if there's any justice, he's going to have thought about that and think, maybe I have an opportunity here, because I was part of that. And Hull City have been done over by refereeing decisions at Sheffield United, and arguably a kind of a 50-50 dodgy one against Leicester, and they've been in the playoffs. Maybe you could just give us a soft penalty. I wouldn't mind that. And then another one, because just going one goal up hasn't helped us very much recently. So good luck to the team. It'll be fun for the first few minutes at the very least. It has been a good season, but we'll talk about the full thing after the game. So thank you for listening, and up the Tigers.